Effects of Close Reading on Comprehension by Anna Randolph. Topic selection. The research question I have chosen for my literature review is, how does close reading impact students' reading comprehension in grades 4 through 6? But first, we need to define what is close reading. Close reading is defined as a strategy that requires students to conduct repeated readings of a text to find deeper meaning. There are 5 key features in a close reading. First, short, complex passages are used to really dig into a text and practice skills. These quick reads provide the time needed to deeply analyze the text and think about what was read. Complex texts are used in order to appropriately challenge students. Since these texts will not be read and analyzed independently, they will often be above a student's current reading level. Second, there is very limited front-loading, also known as pre-teaching, involved in close reading practices. A purpose may be set, but otherwise the goal is for the thinking to emerge from the text itself and for students to interpret the text authentically and in their own terms. Third, several repeated readings are a crucial aspect of close reading. The text should be read independently by the students, but opportunities should also be given for the students to listen to the text being read aloud by the teacher. Each repeated reading will be initiated with a purpose or a question to answer. Fourth, the questions that are asked will be text dependent. The purpose of these questions are to encourage students to reread and search within the text to find support and explanations for their answers. This will also serve as a catalyst for starting conversations among peers and the teacher. Lastly, annotations serve as a way for students to find key points in text, quickly find answers to text-dependent questions, allow students to synthesize information, and form connections to the text. It also can provide teachers with a quick way to identify misconceptions or misunderstandings among the class, giving the teacher an opportunity to provide instruction on a specific point. Reasons for topic selection. A big reason I wanted to choose this topic is my interest in improving my teaching practices, especially for my students who struggle with reading. Closing the gap for our struggling readers is an issue faced by all reading teachers today. Struggling students need something that is more intensive, more focused, and provides more opportunities for scaffolding. It can be challenging to meet the needs of all students, especially our lower readers when the stakes are so high. Students, regardless of ability level, are being asked to take the same state test at the end of every year. We must provide our students with strategies that they can take with them when completing these tests independently. Close reading is a strategy that all teachers can employ to below level, on level, or above level readers, and it can be taught with any excerpt of text. Another reason is because I volunteered to attend a differentiation workshop last summer, where close reading was mentioned as a tool to expose all students to at least grade level text. I was really intrigued by what I heard, and shortly thereafter, our district decided to make a push toward close reading. It's not yet a requirement, but it's something we're looking more into, and I see the value in exploring the research behind this instructional strategy. Lastly, close reading naturally aligns with many of the key concepts found in our Common Core standards, like deep analysis of text, evidence-based thinking, and writing about text. Historical background and theoretical perspectives. Close reading has been around for a long time, but has sometimes had different names. It originally developed from New Criticism, which was a reading approach that was brought about in the 1920s and 1930s. This approach was specific to poetry and was often taught in college classes as a way to correct reading habits that did not lend themselves to scholarly reading. It emphasized objective interpretation of the text and a strong focus on author's purpose. The reader's feelings and attitudes were left out of it entirely. This theory, however, was then challenged later by Rosenblatt's transactional theory. This theory argued that the essential role of the reader was to make meaning of text, which is based upon the feelings, attitudes, and memories that are evoked from the reader through their interpretation of the text. Rosenblatt's theory also connected to theories later held by feminist and Marxist literacy criticisms, which stressed the importance of a reader's background knowledge and feelings about the text, while still understanding the importance of having knowledge about the text itself. Unfortunately, these theories were misinterpreted by many teachers, and some classrooms made an unhealthy shift to overemphasizing the importance of making connections and evoking responses from readers, while ignoring other important teaching points. The bridge between these theories led to what we now know as close reading. Close reading focuses on close interpretation of the text on many different levels and utilizes many different kinds of thinking. The idea of close reading today is not considered a corrective approach. It is not solely about the reader's attitude toward the text, and it's not just about a rigorous objective interpretation. Instead, close reading is a method to help students interpret the deeper meaning of a text in many different ways. There were many major findings that emerged from the research I conducted. First, repeated readings proved to be an effective instructional strategy to improve student reading comprehension and retention of information. It is especially helpful in improving question and answer techniques for literal questions. However, more research needs to be done for the effect it has on inferential questions. Next, students receiving close reading instruction in comparison with more traditional strategies can show significant gains in reading achievement and comprehension. However, this has mainly only been tested with lower level learners. Another finding was that although close reading can be an effective instructional method to improve comprehension, a concern researchers have is that it is very time-consuming on teacher planning time and also takes additional time in the classroom. This leaves researchers wondering if teachers would actually employ this method, and if they do, what would they have to give up to make time for it? More efficient and equally effective tools could potentially be used in place of close reading. Lastly, the use of annotations have a significant impact on students' comprehension and retention of information of what they have read. The most dramatic improvements were made by students who were described as struggling or passive learners. It is important to note that although a fair amount of research has been done on students who are struggling readers, there is not a lot of research out there pertaining to typically developing on-level readers or gifted students. It begs the question of if close reading would be beneficial for all students. Can it be used as more than just an intervention strategy? Stakeholders. It's clear who the stakeholders are in this research. The students, as always, should come first in education, and this is no different. Students can benefit from improved reading skills and are then able to transfer what they learn in class to deepen their understanding of text in real-life applications. The parents of these students are also stakeholders because their children's education is at stake, and parents want their children to get the best education they can and grow as much as possible. Of course, teachers would want to improve their teaching practices and help close the gap for their students. Students benefiting is their #1 priority. Administrators would also want to have success in the classrooms within their schools. Of course, success shouldn't be defined by test scores, but they can't be ignored either. Administrators are constantly looking for strategies to help their students in their school learn. Close reading could be a potential topic at an upcoming professional development meeting. Lastly, the Ohio Department of Education is a stakeholder because we need to align to their standards, and close reading is one method teachers can use to do this. Proposed study for future research. A study that could be designed as the next steps to this literature review would ask the question, what effect does close reading have on student comprehension in the general education classroom for typically developing 5th grade students? I would choose to conduct a quasi-experimental study that would take place in 8 different 5th grade classrooms. 4 classrooms would be a part of the experimental group and would implement close reading practices 3 days a week for 30 minutes each session. The other 4 classrooms would be control groups that would use traditional literacy learning strategies for those same 30 minutes. I would collect data through pre- and post tests that would track student progress in comprehension and vocabulary. I would also administer surveys to teachers and students to analyze their self-perception of themselves as a reader. Lastly, I would conduct videotaped observations with the use of a checklist to monitor various reading behaviors. This wide variety of data would allow me to triangulate my data and ensure valid results. There are other questions that could be asked. Some of these questions include, what effect does close reading have on fluency? What effect does close reading have on elementary students versus high school students? How does close reading impact gifted students? Or, what are the long-term effects of close reading on student comprehension? Here is my list of references that were used throughout this presentation.